time, I looked at that artwork quite a bit, and I just thought he was a random human. It could be. It wouldn't be like totally surprising to me, but at the same time,
With
I would
clarity.
put 80% on it not being Baron Singer.
What was suspicious was the Ghostfire. Well, I was 100% certain it was going to be in Rise of the Eldrazi. If you look at the flavor text of Ghostfire, it references Eye of Ugin.
So,
and it's a colorless spell. Like, yep, this is it. The future. Nope, nowhere to be seen.
So the thing about Ghostfire is it's actually very flavorfully important in the Rise of the Eldrazi storyline, because for the chamber to open for the Eldrazi to come out, there have to be 3 Planeswalker Sparks, and someone has to use Ghostfire. In this case, it's Sarkhan the Mad that uses Ghostfire. But the problem was, like, they had it all conceptualized the way they wanted it, but then when they went to go put the card in the set, they tried it and they realized, wait, what is an R2 colorless card doing in our Rise of the Eldrazi? Their cards were all colorless, right? So it just didn't fit. So it's actually still from that little era of time, but it doesn't actually show off what's going on. Kind of like how Nikalo Hunt Pride from Future Sight, like that belongs on Shards of Alara, but they didn't actually reprint it. It just kind of like gives you a glimpse into the world.
My understanding was that it was an oops. Like, it was one time where it was just like, oops. Like, we just didn't catch that flavor text.
And that's why you have me here.
I don't. But Baron Singer, the most iconic rat tail of all time, is that you remember the art for Baron Singer?
Yes.
He had. Yeah, who is the like mid '90s rock musician that had the wicked bald head with the rat tail? I don't even remember what band he was from. Baron Singer has probably Magic's most iconic rat tail. He might have Magic's only rat tail, save for actual rats from Kamigawa block.
I mean, yes.
Any disagreements? No, we're all on the same page. Yes. Baron Singer, most epic rat tail in Magic.
I agree. I just want to say about Innistrad before we move on. I'm really excited about the set. I haven't seen that much, but from the artwork that got showed off and the tagline "Horror is within," I want to see what's here. I think it's going to be a really cool set.
I love that. Like, literally, one picture and a tagline. And the like predictions in the set on like Salvation are just pages and pages and pages, right? Like, it just to me it's hilariously awesome.
Did Lauren have a tagline when it was? It didn't, did it?
I mean, I understand there's a lot of speculation. I'm going to throw all that out the window. Like, whatever. People speculate about everything. Random people get excited about everything. But I've seen a lot of taglines for a lot of sets. When I saw the Scars, for example, I was like, all right, cool. We'll go back to Mirrodin. That's fine. But when I saw Innistrad, I was like, this looks really cool. When I saw Zendikar, I didn't feel the same way. Where I was like, Liliana is on throne. I saw the picture. I want to know what's happening. Like, as a writer, I want to know what is going on. And I'm very curious to know what's going on. I'm very excited to see if we finally get the kind of like gothic fantasy block that people have been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, I haven't been this excited from just a picture since Lorwyn. And Lorwyn ended up being like one of my favorite sets. When you see like just a picture and you're like, oh, this place looks awesome. They're gonna be some dragons and elves and fantasy things and trees and who knows what else. And
what was the picture for Lorwyn?
I will admit that for me it was Kamigawa block. That was the first IP that really pulled me into a set since Hurloon Minotaur. When I started the game, Hurloon Minotaur was on all the art. It was on booster packaging and it was on like pulp standouts and things like that. Like Walden books, written by Max X, we had a gaming store because I lived in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. And for me, Hurloon Minotaur was awesome. It was this giant like cow creature. I mean, I knew what minotaurs were, but here's a cow, right? Like, I can relate to that. I live in a farm, right? This is a fantasy. This is a fantasy IP that speaks to me. But I had tattoos, so it wasn't just like a side of beef and or milk. It was like this is the type of cattle that you wouldn't want your daughter to introduce to your parents, right? Like, this is not that type of a cow. So that was like that element of IP spoke to me. I was really excited about that, and then not until like Kamigawa block did I really get excited about art again. Or the story, because they had this slow release of all these legends. You read their stories, so you're like, well, I want spoilers, but we don't have spoilers. I guess I'll read about 8.5 years, whatever that is, right? You're reading about this, like, fox that keeps cutting half of his last tail off because it's like he was responsible for a sensei being murdered or something like that. I can't remember the specifics of the story, but to me that kind of, like, stuck with me. It might have been because the first one was brothers Yamazaki and my brother was who got me started playing Magic, right? So it was valuable to me to see other characters because I could really do that. I think one picture from Innistrad, I'm probably not as excited as everyone else is. I definitely think it's going to be good. I thought one thing that was interesting, Evan Irwin on his on the Magic Show last week said that like he seemed to just assume that it was Liliana, which a lot of people have.
Sapphire.
And, I mean, I don't know the specifics on Liliana, so they may be right, I may be wrong, whatever. But he just assumed she's going to cost 4 mana. I felt like in his podcast he's saying like Liliana's coming back. It could be our first like 4 mana Planeswalker shifting down. And I kind of call that into question. Like, where did that come from? Like, I don't understand where that came from.
I feel like he said that because 4 mana is supposed to be the sweet spot for Planeswalkers, right? You need your Planeswalker to cost 3 or 4 to get a lot of play. You've seen it in, Jace, Gera, Tezzeret, where a lot of the older Planeswalkers like Liliana Best, Chandra Nalaar, Chandra Blade, Sorin, Markov haven't seen a ton of play because they cost 5+, right? And so everyone's been waiting for the playable black Planeswalker, as it were. And they're like, oh, well, this one will cost 4. No, I think this speculation is totally baseless. At the same time, I mean, if Wizards wanted to make a good black Planeswalker, I think it might have a very good effect. Or, it could cost around 4. Or both in one,
Why can't it cost 1? What's a 1 mana Planeswalker?
You don't want to do 1 mana.
What's a 1 mana Planeswalker look like?
Good. Not the 1 mana Planeswalker.
No. It's a 1 mana.
Plus 1 rampant growth.
Plus 1. I was just going to do it. Let's see.
Oh, you don't remember that?
No, what was this?
We do blue drafts here in Seattle. Blue drafts are build your own sets. Everyone brings 45 of their homemade cards to a draft, and you shuffle them all together in the draft. It's a lot of fun. It's great for if you're trying to design, or if you're just trying to screw with people and have a good time. Somebody brought us like 1 mana Planeswalkers once.
Oh, that's right.
And he thought they were pretty balanced. For the record, the green one was +1 rampant growth.
That's the +1 ability.
That's the +1 ability.
Yes. I would mind it like Planeswalker that's G -1 rampant growth, only ability of 1 loyalty. Like I would play 4 of those in every green deck.
Sure.
Because that's like rampant growth, but less mana.
Yeah, so if you have a 1 mana Planeswalker, +1, you gain 1 life. -2, draw a card and discard a card. And then its ultimate is like 5, until end of turn. All of your creatures get +0/+1.
I mean,
that's a balanced 1 mana Planeswalker. That's about as far as I'm willing to push it.
So I mean, the thing about 1 mana Planeswalkers is that a couple problems. First of all, you want Planeswalkers to be iconic cards. You want them to be big in your storyline. You want them to be prominently featured. You want people to care about them, and most importantly, you want them to see play. And I feel like all of those factors do not allow 1 mana Planeswalkers. Plus, like, you don't want Planeswalker to come out on the first turn. It just doesn't feel right for that to happen. I think that, I mean, we could see some kind of gimmick in the future where, there's like one mana Planeswalker except for a particular storyline reason that really fits well, but I just don't see it coming anytime soon. I feel like the Planeswalker spot is, 3 to 6 mana is about the range of Planeswalkers, and I feel like if you want you want them to be powerful, you want them to play, you don't want to put a lot of them. Something, a big problem that happened was in Kamigawa blocks. I mean, Legends were really cool, like going into Kamigawa block. And then Kamigawa just had so many Legends and so many unplayable Legends, they just stopped being cool. And it took Wizards a long time to start making it so Legends were kind of cool again. Now we get, a Legend in a pack or something. It's like, oh, this is cool. Like, it's a legendary character from the story, and it has a profound impact on the game. It's a powerful card. Where in Kamigawa, like, you have your uncommon 3 mana Legend. And I feel like there's so many factors competing against the 1 mana Planeswalker. Plus, if you make it good, it's a 1 mana Planeswalker. Everyone's going to want to play with it. So there's a very careful balance you have to strike there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've batted. Any design talk will talk about 1 mana Planeswalker. I don't think it's likely to ever happen. But if we look at other IPs, like let's look at like G.I. Joe. Hasbro owns G.I. Joe. At some point in the comics, the things like that, they have to start introducing secondary characters who are part of the main storyline but can be killed off and are weaker. So you see it with like X-Men who aren't quote real X-Men, like a Jubilee type character, where it's like, okay, we've got this main core of X-Men, but they just never die. That's not fun. So we need to introduce some red shirt X-Men, which are like almost like the real ones, but not as good, and then we can kill them off. People are like, wow, people like X-Men can actually die. That's scary, but Wolverine can't actually die. Right? It's like that cash cow is never going away.
They're the ecstatics, right?
Right, or like Baby Jace, right? Like Jace, blue for +1, I don't know, draw a card, discard a card, no, that's probably too good. But I don't know, he would do... If you imagine Magic's never going to end, it's going to keep growing and growing, at some point, you have to start demonstrating I mean, I guess it's a different IP. Maybe it's a different IP in such a fashion that you never have to worry about mortality for planeswalkers or anything like that. But I feel like you have to kill some off at some point to make new ones, right? Or you just have the same, I don't know, 20 or 30 forever.
So, I mean, to me, a couple things. First, I think that if you're looking for the companion to the planeswalkers, I think we have those in Picture Dash Legends, or it's Legendary. I feel like ever since Rolling Blocks, we kind of saw planeswalkers come out. Like, planeswalkers are like the big, like, I'm a planeswalker, I travel planes. And then the legends are like, you know, the local people who are like legendary on their own plane to kind of help out. They do their little jig and, you know, and so forth.
Emerald for insight.
I don't know why you can't just kill off iconic planeswalkers. I mean, I think it's different. Like, in comics are driven by the storyline, right? So if you kill off Wolverine, like, that's a huge cash cow. Well, like, they're driven by, like, the story in general, right? So storyline characters. Like, you know, you kill off Wolverine, right? Like, that's going to be a huge impact on people buying your comics. Where in Magic, like, people do like the story, don't get me wrong. I love the story, as you guys can all tell. But if you kill off Chandra of Noir, like, the players are going to react as violently because the game's not all about the storyline.
You face unblemished power.
Probably not. I mean, you kill off Spider-Man, then my Spider-Man comics probably aren't going to be as good.
Yeah, but they, like, the comic industry is famous, right? Like, they've killed off Batman a couple times, Superman died, they just killed, spoiler warning, they just killed Captain America, right, again. Like, I've never seen a comic book hero die, a real comic, the Planeswalker comic book hero, and they're like, yep, that's it, we're no longer going to produce this $5 million comic book series, right, it's valuable to us. It's always like, and now his faithful sidekick will finally take the limelight and carry it on to the next generation. Because it's really hard to keep writing modern day comic book heroes when they're the same guys that were fighting the Nazis. Right? It's like, at this point, that guy should be living in like Boca Raton, like playing bocce, right? Like, forget fighting crime. That guy just collecting Social Security and listening to Glenn Beck, right? Like, that's what that guy should be doing. 'Cause I feel like,
Brilliantly.
from a design perspective and having worked with design and development, creating a one-mana planeswalker seriously is just crushingly difficult, if not impossible. But I still think,
Sapphire
over the course of infinite time, you're going to have to grow planeswalkers to this point where they can start dying. And I'm not sure Legends is good enough. I'm not sure killing off Legends is good enough.
So I agree. I think if you have infinite time, we might eventually see a one-man planeswalker. The thing is, like, planeswalkers just came out, what, 5 years ago now?
Lorwyn.
4 years ago?
Long enough to stay in the extended,
Yeah,
so however far that goes.
So 4 years ago, right, when we saw our first poster, right? And I think, you know, maybe 10 years from now,
Opal for
you could
harmony.
see a one-mana planeswalker. Or, you know, 5 years from now, or some point in the distant future.
An
But
enemy has been
we just
slain.
saw colorless spells in Rise of the Eldrazi. Like, you know, that was the first time we saw color, you know, like, all colorless mana spells, I believe. Am I missing any?
Better than artifacts, obviously.
Yeah, they're the artifacts.
Yeah, actual color spells.
Yeah, like actual color spells. Those are the first ones, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's right.
And I mean, so, and that could have been something they did
Emerald
back
for
in the
insight.
dark. I mean, it would have been super easy to be like, alright, you know what, sweet, let's make a spell that you know, is colorless. Even when you go into modern design, you look at Mirage, you're like, okay, Mirage is the start of modern design, what do we want to do with Magic? Well, let's make colorless spells.
Ruby
No, like, they
for
held off
vigor.
and decided to save it for a special time. If you
An
put something
enemy
out there
has been
early,
slain.
it's not special. I think there are so many, I mean, you know, or it becomes less special over time. I think there are so many different things that you can do with Planeswalkers
Opal
before
for
you get to
harmony.
you know, the one mana range. Like, look at Jace, the Mind Sculptor, right? He has 4 abilities. He's the only Planeswalker we know with 4 abilities. If Jace had come out and every Planeswalker after him has 4 abilities, he's a lot less cool. Right? So when you see a one mana Planeswalker, I think it's something they could do as a one of potentially sometime in the future.
Your
But
turret has been
I don't think it's something
destroyed.
you're going to see a lot of if it ever comes out. And I think when it comes out, it's going to be a very specific
Sapphire.
Maybe we're ever going to see red shirt planeswalkers where it's like, hey, Captain Kurt's leading the planeswalker party to the new planet. Red shirt planeswalker who's doing this set, why don't you come with us? And then dead in the next set.
I don't think so. I mean, if I'm watching a comic, or if, like, I'm reading a comic book, I'm watching a movie or whatever, and they kill off some main character, and then
ally
some
has been
specific is
slain.
not there, then I never get to see that character again, right? But there are plenty of cards that get printed once. You get to play with them. Like, they don't get reprinted again. But you can still play them in your Age decks, Commander decks, you know, Legacy and Vintage. You know, Teferi. If they killed off to Farron.
Opal for
And-
harmony.